Welcome to the Burgundy Gold Knuckleheads podcast. As always, well, headed to the NFC Championship game, riding with me. It's my main man, Reggie. What is going on, Reg?
It's championship week, man.
Yeah,
Championship week,
the NFC
right?
Championship. Washington Commanders. They
Wow.
are riding the wave. There's while the Eagles are definitely a team to reckon with, at the same time, there's no reason why the Commanders won't continue to ride this wave. They are feeling it. They're doing it. An argument could be made that they're getting better in the playoffs, um, offensively and defensively. And we'll see coming this week against uh, Philadelphia, and we'll get in talking to that. But what are the people around you saying? That are not Cowboy. Well, I guess they can be Cowboy fans, but people that aren't Philly fans and aren't Washington fans are people communicating with you and to you at work and friends and family and places you go.
Yeah. So I've gotten a lot of congratulations, right? From people, fans of different teams, including Cowboy fans,
Mm-hmm.
have congratulated me. And I think most of it is just simply being that these are friends and associates that know me and know that I've kind of been along this journey with the Commanders, kind of a ride or die type situation, right? Through all the bad. And I've never wavered. So I
Right.
think people just congratulating me just because they know I've been along this ride for such a long time. Um the Cowboy fans, some of the Cowboy fans are friends and associates, and then the Cowboy fans. The friend
Right.
and associate part of these people are just congratulating because they know it's been a long time coming. The Cowboy side of these fans are rooting for us because they hate Philly. So
Right.
they're not really Commanders fans. They're just rooting for us because they don't like the Eagles. But I told them one, come all, right? We'll take it
Right.
because we want to beat Philly probably just as much as they want to beat Philly. But obviously we're a little bit more because we're playing them, and it's such a big game. But for the most part, man, it's been all positive. It's been all love. It's been fun. Um, and it's almost been a little bit kind of a, do people feel sorry for me, or or they just acknowledging, hey, you stuck it out through thick and thin. I don't know, but it's just, I'm like, all right, cool, because
Well,
we've
yeah,
won before.
and I don't know. There was a meme out, and I don't know if you saw it earlier this week. It was a picture of the map. It had a little circle
I did
around
see that.
Philadelphia. That's where all the Philadelphia fans were. Everything throughout the United States else was Commander fan, right?
Right,
And then on the opposite side, there's a circle around Kansas City, and everything outside of Kansas City at this point are Buffalo fans. And
right.
that's probably not too far from the truth, right? Uh,
Yeah,
the way the fans across the NFL, um, they've had enough of Kansas City. Even though Philly hasn't been winning, they've been up there from a NFC perspective, and just the way Philly fans are and everything, people are already tired of them, and there's not too many non-Philly fans that are rooting for Philly. It's just the nature of the Eagles, right? Um,
yeah,
and so yeah, I've had a handful of people that reached out to me the first couple of days, especially, and a couple of them are just kind of casual football fans, and I'm going to say that they're at least for the remainder of the season. I think they're on the bandwagon. I think they're on for the ride and kind of pulling for Washington here, and it's 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 not something you see, right? Even that is new for Washington fans, is to have bandwagon people from other teams that have been eliminated decide, well, we're out, but I'm pulling for Washington now. When
right.
has that ever happened? In the last 20 years, 30 years, it hasn't.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I can, I can, I can handle that, right? I'm cool
Yeah.
with people and fans of other teams, jumping on and supporting us along the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was I'm sure this guy's not alone, but there was this one particular guy on Twitter who posted that he hopes that Commanders fans adopt him. And there's a lot of people that was like, "Yeah, come on, man. It's come one, come all." And there were some people that had the old bandwagon application, to kind of make fun of them, like, "Here, fill this out with the bandwagon
Right.
thing." And I was one of them that was like, "No, where you been the past 25 years?"
No.
When
What
people,
was his affiliation, or did he tell you his affiliation before this?
no, it was a post he made on Twitter, and people were
Okay.
responding to it. And my
Okay.
response was, no. I mean,
Right.
don't come now
Right.
when the good is good now. Where were you all the other years
Well, he was
when
with
we were
Kansas City
bad,
the last few years, probably.
or when people was laughing at us? You were probably one of the people laughing at us too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, no, hell no, get out of here, dude. You want to wait till all of a sudden we're 12-5 and we look like we have a star quarterback and we're winning and Dan Quinn has turned things around and now you're going to be a fan? Like, no, dog, it's not that easy. You don't just get to jump on now that we're rolling.
Right.
Now at the end of the day, it was all in fun, it was all in jest. I can't tell anyone who to root for and how to root, but he asked the question, I responded. He asked the question obviously on Twitter, and people responded. But I was like, no, man, you got to earn this, bro. We we got stripes,
Yeah.
right? We got battle scars.
I mean,
There's
he's
a
not
lot
going to be
of,
sitting at our table at the bar for sure,
no,
right?
no, hell no. I mean, like I said, we got battle scars, man. There's a lot of wounds, a lot of, a lot of healing that still needs to take place. No, brother,
Yeah.
you don't just get to, oh wow, look like they look a fun team to watch, and looks like they're having some success. Let me go root for those guys. No, bro, it don't work like that. Now, again, if you're a fan of another team and now you still have a rooting interest in the playoffs and you picked a team to kind of ride, like if we hadn't been in it, I probably been rooting for Detroit. But Detroit's gone. And
Right.
so there's probably some people who root for Detroit and they're not rooting for us. But again, I think a lot of that there's obviously been some Jake Daniels has brought some fans.
Sure.
But again, I still think there's a lot of people that just dislike the Eagles.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with you. I mean, there are fans out there that you go to their closet and they have 4 or 5 different teams' jerseys hanging in their closet, right?
I don't understand that.
I don't either. You're not really a fan of anybody at that point. You may be a fan of a player or two or something like that, but you're not rooting for a team. And that, to me, you only have one team. The only slight caveat is maybe if you have somebody like your main team is the Commanders, and you've got a second team that is a weak second team, but is in the AFC. You can't have anybody else in the NFC.
Right.
And I'll give you a slight pass on that, but you better be consistent with that second team in the AFC for the last 20, 25 years. If you're our age, you can't be, oh, well, all of a sudden, look, 10 years ago, nobody was a Kansas City fan that wasn't from Kansas City or have a connection to Kansas City.
Right.
Now they're spread out all throughout the country, and I understand, right? I understand, but anyway, I was just checking to see what kind of vibe you were getting from non-Commanders fans out there.
And let me just say for the record, before you go to your next point, I don't like bandwagon fans.
No, I'm not.
Whether it's my team or another team. If you tell me, yeah, I root for this team, and then 2 years later I mention it, and you're like, it's not my team anymore.
Yeah,
I lose a little bit of respect, more so as a sports fan, not so much as a person. But
absolutely.
As a sports fan, I'm like, I'm done. I don't want. Yeah, no, that's not a fan.
You go which way the wind blows, and that's not. Again, when you're a diehard fan, those kinds of fans really irritate you.
Yeah.
Right. I'd rather have a Commanders. I would rather have a Commanders fan that disappears for a few years and then comes back. I don't like that. Don't get me wrong, but I would prefer that than somebody that's, a Commanders fan now. And like I said, a couple of years ago, they were Kansas City. A couple of years before that, they were whoever, New England fan,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But anyway, but man, we've got we've got the Eagles coming up, and man, it's so strange to turn on the TV on Sports Center or any uh, radio feed or anything sports radio feed out there, and they're constantly talking about the Commanders because there's only 4 teams left. Right. 28 teams are gone. 29 teams are gone. Right.
28.
28. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. That depends on how you want to look at it. Right.
It's 4 more, man. 28 and 4 is 32.
I understand that, but
I got your back. I got your back, though.
But at the same time, as far as draft picks, Washington's not going to have a good draft pick next year. The best we can have is 29. So I don't know how that math works out, right?
Then somebody's wrong, man. What do you mean?
That's accurate, right? 29, 30, 31, and 32.
All right, man.
I'm just saying.
It's a 29th pick, but it's 28 other teams that are not in it, right?
Okay.
We're picking 29. Come on, man. What are you doing?
Oh man, I'm trying
because the other 28 teams picked 1 through 28.
I know.
What are you doing?
So we're the 29th team. There you go. But anyway. Oh man, I like messing with you, Reg. But with that being said, man, it's down to game time. I mean, I'm ready for the game to start tomorrow. I'm sure the players are rested and they're excited and everything, but they're trying to get all their aches and pains away from last week. And when you win, you're not quite as sore, right? You go into the NFC Championship game, you're any little knee pain, back pain, whatever, it can wait 3 weeks, right? It can wait 3 more weeks.
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
And so anyway, I'll let you go from there.
No, I was gonna say, man. So we're gonna get into a little bit of discussing the Eagles and the matchup, but got my notes here, so I don't want to miss anything. So a couple of nuggets. I'm gonna call them nuggets, right? That for Washington entering this game. And if you're listening to this podcast, you may have heard some of these things, but some people may not. So if you've heard it before, my apologies for kind of rehashing it. But here's the thing. Washington became the 5th team in NFL history to finish in the bottom 2 the previous year, and then the following year reached the conference championship game. Because again, we picked number 2 last year. Now we're in the conference championship game. We became the 5th team to have done that. So of the 4 previous teams to have done it, 2 of them lost this game in the conference championship.
Mm-hmm.
And those 2 teams were the 96 Jacksonville Jaguars and the 2006 New Orleans Saints. The other 2 teams that did this actually made it to the Super Bowl. So they won the conference game, made it to the Super Bowl, but they lost the Super Bowl. That was the 1988 Cincinnati Bengals and the 2019 San Francisco 49ers. So the last time this was even done was in 2019. And, but yeah, Washington became the 15. This will also be the 5th time in the league where the division opponents are playing each other in the conference championship game. So in this case, it's us against the Eagles, same division. This is the 5th time that such thing has happened.
That number seems low to me. Like that would happen more often between the AFC and the NFC that over the years. But That's interesting. It's only been 5 times.
I take that back. My correction. I'm reading my notes here. It's the 5th time since 2000, the 1999-2000 season.
Okay.
My correction. And in that particular year, the 1999-2000 year, the last time this happened, it was the Titans, who was the number 4 seed against the number 1 Jacksonville Jaguars team. The Titans was the number 4 seed, and they won, and they went on to play the number 1 seed, the Rams, which, if you remember, was the greatest show on turf. And that would have been the Steve McNair, and I forgot, I think Dyson reaching out at the 1-yard line or wherever it was, trying to get into the thing. So it's the 5th time since the 1999-2000 season.
Okay.
One more nugget for you. Jayden Daniels. This is amazing year that he has had. Jayden Daniels became or will be the 6th rookie quarterback to start in a conference championship game. Now, this stat you may have seen. So, of the 5 other rookie quarterbacks to have gotten to this point, the championship game, every one of those other rookie quarterbacks had a top 3 scoring defense. So what that equates to is the defense was helping to carry these quarterbacks, and the quarterbacks were essentially what people refer to as your game managers, and they were winning in spite of the quarterbacks, not because of the quarterbacks. So I'll quickly run those down. Sean King, 1999. I don't even know if you remember Sean King, but he played for the Bucks, and the Bucks had the 3rd scoring defense. 2004, Ben Roethlisberger rookie year. He was not good at that time, and the Steelers had the number 1 scoring defense.
Dominating defense.
Dominating that year. Yep.
Yes.
Then Joe Flacco did it in 2008 with the Ravens.
Dominating defense.
Dominating defense with Ray Lewis and all those boys. Then Mark Sanchez did it in 2009 with the Jets. They had the 3rd ranked scoring defense. And then recently in 2020, Brock Purdy with the Niners, and they had the number 1 scoring defense. And then Jayden Daniels become number 6 this year. And you want to take a stab? If you haven't already seen the number, you want to know what his scoring defense is?
I have not seen it. I'll be kind and say 22nd.
Okay. So just to kind of recap, all the other 5 had top 3 scoring defense. So the defense essentially carried the quarterback. Jayden Daniels has become the 6th. His scoring defense is 18th.
18th.
So Jayden is carrying this team, and we all know this. As fans, we know we're winning because of Jayden, not because of our defense or anything else. Because you take Jayden Daniels off of this team, and we don't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So just a couple of nuggets, and you can give me your thoughts in a second, but just a couple of nuggets I want to kind of mention about what Washington and or Jayden Daniels has achieved by reaching the conference championship game this weekend.
Yeah, no, I think those are good. I think we recognize what is happening in Washington is special. And we anticipate that this is going to be special for a while, but this type of special normally doesn't happen in 1 year. And I'd have to go back and look at the teams that made the big changes before, from the 2nd worst to the NFC Championship game. And I would imagine that a lot of those not only did it with potentially defense, but they probably had an established, I would imagine several of those had an established quarterback that went down early. They had a bad season, and all of a sudden the quarter came back and they got back in gear.
Perhaps.
Again, that's just kind of speculation without looking at the details of all that. Again, the idea of doing it with a rookie quarterback is just it's unheard of, right? And I'm interested to see it's funny because I don't at this point we don't worry about Jaden Daniels, right? Um, to me, I'm not worried about Jaden Daniels. I'm worried about what the rest of the team is going to do. What's the packages that we put together to to slow down Philadelphia, or how we attack them, whether it's on the game. How I mean, Cliff Kingsbury did a good job. If you've seen some of the film breakdown that a lot of people have done against Detroit, some of the things that he did were specific to expose the defenses that Detroit was running to make it easier on Jaden Daniels. The one play in particular, and he did it a couple times, but where he moved, he had 4 wide receivers and he moved them to the extremes. That's the one that Terry caught and split the wide receiver, the receivers out there, and ran it for a TD. Detroit is known for a lot of integral defenses and hiding their defenses, what they're running into the last second as the play snaps. But by pushing them out, Cliff knew that the secondary had to go out there, right? And so when you forced them all the way out wide, not in close, all the way out wide, they couldn't cheat. And it exposed and said, Jaden knew when he came up that he did that. These are things that I think we give Jaden Daniels and the players credit for, but the coaches are in sync with what these players are doing. The idea that we had in past years of, we complained about Curtis Samuel not being used properly, certain tools not being used properly, or setting things up, or doing reads from Scott Turner. There's very few times we have a play or two where we might argue with, but overall, the offensive performance, we don't look and go, man, I don't know what Cliff was doing that game. Right.
So what you're telling me is we have a coach that is catering his system to the players as opposed to forcing his players to comply to the system.
Well, it's a combination. I mean, it's a combination that look, what they did last year from an organizational perspective wasn't backwards, right? They went and got the GM. They went and got the head coach. The head coach had an idea of what he wanted to do, even if it's turning it over to Kingsbury as an offensive coordinator. He turned it over to him, and they all worked together and with Adam Peters to bring in the personnel for what they wanted to run. Once they had the personnel, maybe they didn't get every single perfect player that they wanted. They got the players that they brought in, and to your point, they put the system together that utilized the skill set of the players that they had. And
it's not just a
I
system.
think that's gone overlooked some this year. We all put it on Jaden as him doing these miracle plays and things like that, but they're getting more out of players that weren't we didn't know what they were going to do, right?
Well, it's not just a system; it's the coach, right? And that's
Yes.
it was somewhat of a rhetorical question, because point is Cliff is collaborating with the players. If you listen to Terry does interviews, you listen to Jake do interviews, he talked about how if there's a play he doesn't like, he talks to Cliff. Cliff during the game will come over and say, okay, what are you seeing out there? What's working, what's not working? And there's collaboration with it. Whereas in years past, even as recent as with Eric Bieniemy here, there wasn't a lot of collaboration going on with the players. It was his system, and he was trying to force the players, if you just do what I ask you to do, type of speech, then it will work. And even though it may not be good because you don't have the players to run said system. So Cliff is working with that, and he deserves a lot of credit. But I think maybe we've not voiced it as much on his podcast, but I do know on social media, and even between you and I offline here, we've talked about how if there's success in Washington, if this thing goes the way we had anticipated it to go, before the season, throughout the season, and their success in Washington, we are going to lose coaches,
Right.
including Cliff Kingsbury. But I think we all said we would like to have Cliff at least 2 years to get through the first rookie season with Jade, and then do one more year to continue his growth and the foundation he has in the system before, and even with the coaches that works with Cliff. And if when and if Cliff leaves, then you bring the next guy. And that was one part of what Dan learned from his time in Atlanta, that you have a concession plan when your coaches leave. But two, maybe when Cliff does leave, because he's going to leave,
Right.
when he does leave, maybe there's some continuity with the offense and maybe they tweak it a little bit, but the concepts remain the same. So I hope that Cliff does not get a head coaching job. I think signs are pointing that he may not, because the big jobs seem to be getting dried up. Um, Chicago now has their coach. The Jets have their coach. I can't see him going to Las Vegas. I can't see him going to Jacksonville. So
Right.
I think signs are pointing to Cliff is probably going to stay here and at least one more year. And the place I forgot was Dallas. And so the question becomes, I don't know what Cliff sees when he looks at the roster in Dallas, whether or not he wants to work with salary cap hell, the quarterback who's got the highest paid quarterback who's got the majority of the cap space, but yet they need help, and what he thinks of Dak Prescott. However, I hope and believe that he at least stays one more season before he goes out and starts seriously looking at being a head coach again. But again, to your point, that goes back to the coaching that deserves a lot of the credit and the success we have here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
It
with you.
I agree. 100%. I want Cliff to come back one more year. If we have, in the ballpark success that we next year that we have this year, I'll be surprised if Cliff doesn't go somewhere else. There's just going to be opportunities, whether it's with an existing quality quarterback or another young, uh, another team that has a high draft pick that he's going to go to and help develop another quarterback in another system. Um, and I Joe Witt deserves some credit here also. While this has not been a dominating defense, it has gotten slowly better. And one of the things that I notice, sometimes I wish it was done sooner, but Washington has consistently done a lot better in the second half than the first half. I wish he was able to make adjustments between the first quarter and the second quarter. Um, but they tend to make a difference in how they're playing. Something that is eating them up in the first half tends to dramatically slow down in the second half. Whether it's a wide receiver, whether it's a running back, whether it's a quarterback that's scrambling and eating you up, those adjustments are being made. And whether he's showing film or having 5 minutes, 10 minutes to sit down and talk to two or three of the players and saying, we need to make these adjustments, whatever that is. They're doing that. And it's going to be interesting this week because, as we know, there's a lot of weapons over there in Philadelphia, and I'm sure Joe Witt is he's spent a lot of time watching film over and over and over again of what has been able to, for other teams, not just Washington, but what other teams have done to slow down the offense and where their offense excels. Um,
Well, I don't know how much different things can be. Dan Quinn talked about it in his presser, in that the offense and the defense is what they are, and he feels like both teams will see some things they didn't see before. And he says, and mostly that's because on your call sheet, as the game plays out, there may be some plays that you had on the call sheet that didn't make it into the game.
right.
So on paper, you're going to say, well, we never seen that before. It's just simply because it didn't make it in the game. However, with this being the third time that these teams will have seen each other this year, this season, um, it's going to be interesting. I think everybody in the world knows that the key to beating Philadelphia is going to be stopping Saquon Barkley. but yet no one has been able to solve that problem. The guy would have been the NFL single season rusher had he not set out the last game of the season. Um, and he's having an MVP type season. Even when he played Washington this season, the guy was probably averaged of 150 yards in each game rushing, right?
Right.
Um, and so that's the riddle that will need to be solved. And if if they can't do anything to slow this guy down, because he's going to get 100-yard rushing. I mean, hell, he had 100 yards in the first half last time we played him. I mean, the first quarter. I'm sorry.
Right.
So they're going to have to be able to kind of contain this guy. They're not going to stop him, but they got to be able to contain him. Same recipe for beating Detroit has to be this week. You have to be able to stop the run and force the quarterback to beat you. Now they have some talent at wide receiver. We know this. Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. But it's the quarterback. The quarterback is the guy that can be inconsistent. And so we need to be able to force Jalen Hurts to play. You know, he injured his knee in the game. And if Washington wins this game on Sunday, people are going to say, well, maybe he was still hurt. But he wasn't playing well even before he injured his knee on this past weekend.
Right.
His numbers have been down, right? And so Washington being able to get pressure on them will be a huge key in this game. We know that last time Washington played them, Washington had 5 turnovers in the game. Now the big storyline from Eagles fans is Jalen Hurts getting hurt, getting concussed, being knocked out of the game. But Philadelphia still put up 30 points that game. Washington had 5 turnovers, so we gave Philadelphia every chance to win that game, and yet with the 5 turnovers, Washington still was able, to win the game.
Right.
So there has to be confidence with Washington players, coaching staff, to know that we can get it done. But you got to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You got to get it done.
I mean, to your point, Hurts in the playoffs, his 2 games, he's thrown for 128 yards and 131 yards. Right. That's
terrible.
That's bus driver.
And this is before the knee injury, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now he is picking up some yards with his feet, at least in the first game. Well, actually, in both games, he had a handful of runs, but he's not doing it with his arm. And the receivers and tight end are very good over there, but they're relying on Barkley, right? They're putting the ball in Barkley's hands and using their receivers and tight ends when things aren't going well, or when they need them, I should say, when they need to pick up the extra yards. When I look at this game, I look at a couple things of if you tell me this is going to happen or not happen, I feel good about our situation. First down is going to be key, I think, on this. We always talk about third downs. To me, first down is going to be key, right? Because there's probably a 70% chance they're going to hand it to Barkley on first down, right? If you can keep it 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10, it changes things quickly, and how they use Barkley, right? They're still going to use him, right? They're not just going to forget and go a different direction on him, but you're going to use him a little bit less. You're going to the types of plays all of a sudden becomes somewhat predictable from a defensive perspective of the type of plays you're going to run. And Washington needs those little nugget advantages throughout the game. And we'll see, how that plays out.
Well, just as Washington defensively need to be able to get them into stop them on first down and put them in 2nd, 3rd and long. Washington needs to do the complete opposite, right?
Yep.
We need to be able to run the ball on 1st and 2nd down and get into some 3rd and shorts, because then our playbook opens up. We mentioned, and we know that's going to be a little bit difficult, I think. The Right guard, Washington right guard Sam Cosmi obviously is out for the rest of the season with his ACL tear.
Yep.
And so Trent Scott came in, and we talked about how you didn't realize that Sam wasn't in the game. And Jalen Carter, though, the defensive tackle for the Eagles, is a very large man. Not only is he a very large man, he's a very large and strong man. And even our best guard, Sam Cosmi, had issues with this guy. And now we're about to throw our backup guard in there. And they seem to be able to control the run and control the line. They, meaning Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
have the ability to control the run and affect the passing game just with the 4-man rush. They do blitz, they do those things, but they can wreck a game just with their 4-down linemen. And it starts with Jalen Carter. And Washington's ability to run the ball on first down or second down to get some yardage will be key to how our offense flows. Is going to be paramount in my personal opinion. We talked about last week when we going into the Detroit game that Washington and Detroit were the top two teams when it came to fourth down, going for it, and all this kind of thing. And I think that's where we stopped because that was the match. I gotta believe that probably number 3 was Philadelphia. I don't know that, but that's just speculation because they too are a 4-down team. They're known for the tush push, and if it's third short, fourth and short, you better believe they're going to go for it on fourth down. What was interesting though is Washington is 81% conversion rate on fourth down. That is an incredible stat.
Yeah.
So Philadelphia is going to be prepared for us to go for it on all 4 downs. So the defense on both sides, Philadelphia and Washington, will have to come to play. This is not third down and you go off the field, man, because most likely the offense is going to stay on the field and you better be ready to go.
Yeah. I think one of the keys for Washington's success offensively is going to be not just the running backs. I mean, not from a running game perspective, but the running backs period out of the backfield, picking up the blocks. There's going to be more asked of the running backs this game than a typical game, right? To your point, their front four puts a lot of pressure. So if you're a back and you're staying to pick up whoever it is that might be getting through, you got to give Jaden that extra, 0.2 of a second, that extra tick for him to get the ball out of his hand, to get the read, to make a move for him to scramble, whatever it is. I would love to see, from a successful perspective, Eckler walk away with 6 to 8 catches. I think that's a recipe for success for Washington if they do that. I think Eckler against most linebackers is an advantage for Washington. But you just got to be smart with it. He's got to be able to sneak out. You got to have to either hold a tight end or somebody in to give him time to get out into the flat. I know it's not like he's going way downfield, but people are going to check him as he releases also. I see this as a very much of a chess match, even more so than Detroit. And we saw the moves that were done by both teams offensively and defensively in that game. And it happens every game. You're going to see it just highlighted and the emphasis on it just that much more being an NFC championship game.
Okay. Well, I think the last time I checked, the spread was about 5.5 points. And you correctly predicted last week that it would be a high scoring game. Do you predict another high scoring game?
I think a high scoring game does not benefit Washington in this particular case. If you're telling me the score is, and I'm just throwing out a number, if the final score is 22-24, man, Washington could very easily walk away with a win. If it starts getting into the 30s, while Washington can definitely score in the 30s, I think if we're doing that against Philadelphia, I think that's not a good recipe.
Okay.
the over under is 47.5. I'm not going to say it's going to be above or below, but that's probably a good number. And if it stays in that number or below, we all feel comfortable with 3 minutes, down by 1, down by 2, with Jaden having the ball in his hand. Yeah. Right. Philadelphia doesn't want that. Philadelphia, just how teams with Patrick Mahomes, oh man, we left too much time on the clock. Oh man, he's got one more shot. Same thing with Brady. That's Jaden Daniels and the team now. Right. That's when they're clutch. That's when Terry's making his catches. Ertz is all of a sudden just, bowling over people. Eckler has come through in big points in the final drives here. It's a recipe for Washington to win if that is how the game comes down.
I think 23 points wins this game. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think 23 points, you win the game.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to go that low, but if it's in the 20s, Washington, it benefits Washington if it's in the 20s.
Low 20s. Well, I'm just saying, you say in the 20s, is that you're talking 28, 29 points, or you're talking
mid to low 20s, mid to low 20s, right? Okay. Again, that's my crystal ball. That is, we're both teams are moving the ball, but coming up short here and there. They punch it in, and it's a fight. Every single, that's what I want for Philadelphia is, if they're truly fighting for every score that they have, I like Washington's chances. If there's broken plays, if Barkley is busting one for 65 yards and Brown is getting open for another 45-yard pass, I don't want that against Philadelphia.
We can't have that.
Yeah, because we're not going to have. A lot of people were wrong last week, right? But I don't see fast points against Philadelphia. I see grinding points. So if we're having to grind, we want them to grind too. We want them to have challenging scores so our defense can rest. Okay. And so, again, that's just kind of how I see the game hopefully playing out, and kind of how I do see it playing out.
Okay. All right.
You got anything else, or is it time?
I do not. I think it's that time, man.
What's your name? What's your number? What is the confidence level going into the dirty, dirty city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, against them sorry Eagles?
Brotherly no love.
Brotherly no love. Ideally at the end of this game, we want them to, we want to be singing "Cry, Eagles, Cry."
Yes.
But time will tell. Reggie, you want to go first? You want me to go first? I'm going to let you go first because that's the way we've been going, and things have been going well, man. I'm going to stick with the streak here.
All right.
Well, whatever your number is, it doesn't matter. That's your number. Right now. I'm going to stick with how things are going well for us in Washington.
Okay, so you're being superstitious. Got it. All right. I don't have a number right now. So as I talk through this, I'm going to come up with a number.
Oh man, we might need a drum roll.
Yeah. So first and foremost, man, I want to point out that Jaden Daniels, I left one little nugget for you that I didn't share earlier. So Jaden Daniels has played two career playoff games. This will be number 3. But in the 2 that he's played, he's 2-0. 0 turnovers. There's been 1 punt. He's had 0 sacks. 116.2 passer rating. He's thrown 567 yards and has passed for 4 touchdowns. Okay. Incredible stat. And we're going to need more of that. We're going to need more of this to win this game. Washington is 4-0 in rematch games. 3 of them was against our division.
Right.
And when we played them the second time, Jayton came out on top. And then the 4th game was we played Tampa in week 1,
Tampa.
and then we played them in the playoffs, and we got a lick back against Tampa.
Right.
So any opponent that he's played the second time around, he's undefeated. And that includes the second matchup against the Eagles. So the question is, now that he's seen the Eagles not once but twice, can he be 5-0 in rematch games? And I don't know the answer to that. We hope so. The other thing here is this is a division game, a division opponent. And will familiarity help or hurt? And the same can be said for both teams. Because not much new, I don't think, is going to happen. And the only thing that's different in this game really is the stakes. What's at stake here? There's no next week if you lose this game. And with that said, man, I was extremely nervous about the Detroit game, even though I gave it a 5. But I'm just as nervous about this game. I'm a little more hopeful. So I'm going to give this game 5.5. That's it. 5.5.
Hey, anything above a 5 is a positive thing. Look, Philadelphia is a concerning team, right? They lost 3 games this year. They lost 2 of their first 4, and then didn't lose another game until Washington late in the season. They've taken care of teams. Put a handful of teams, out. They've had a good job of distancing themselves in the game and not going down to the wire oftentimes. A nugget here that a lot of people probably don't realize, Jaden Daniels has more playoff wins than Kirk Cousins.
No, I did not know that.
Kirk Cousins, yes, he already has more playoff wins than Kirk Cousins, who's at the back end of his career, who's made money, who's been perceived some by people in Washington that he should have stuck around and everything. He was the fix. Some people thought that he was the fix to stay in Washington. Some people thought he was the fix when he went to Minnesota. Some people thought he was the fix when he went to Atlanta. Right? Atlanta brought him in to be the fix. Jaden Daniels has more playoff wins than Kirk Cousins. Okay. Jaden Daniels is doing nothing but getting better. In the playoffs, throughout the season, we think he's been playing incredible all year, which he has, but this isn't even the same Jaden Daniels of week 3, 4, 5 when he was doing everything. This is actually another Jaden Daniels. This is a mature Jaden Daniels. This is a full season, but probably like having 2.5 seasons worth of playing, the way he's grown in this offense, the way the offense has expanded. Another thing that we've seen the emergence of is De'Ami Brown. De'Ami Brown his confidence is up there, right? Not only is De'Ami, and this is from people again that are looking at some of the film that you and I don't have access to. We see his production on the field with his catches, but supposedly he is a blocking fool out there. His side of the field, the other side of the field, he is getting to it and making an impact with blocking to help try to get them free. Some people he is getting free, like he did with Terry last week. But he is doing this. This is what Washington is doing. These are the players that Washington wants. I don't think that Austin Eckler played against Philadelphia. He was out. He was on concussion protocol. And we know Washington offense is a different offense with Austin Eckler versus not having Austin Eckler in. There's a dynamic, there's a dimension that he brings to the game that we don't have a replacement for at this time. I think Washington walks away with a win in this game. I think they find a way of containing Barkley. He's gonna have some moments. He might tiptoe to 100 yards. But I think playoff Dan Campbell, playoff Joe Witt, playoff Bobby Wagner. Their experience is going to come
Dan
through.
Campbell.
What's that?
You said Dan Campbell.
Oh, I said I'm sorry, Dan Campbell. Dan Quinn. It said Dan Campbell. Sorry about that.
Well, the suspense is killing me, man.
Once again, Knucklehead Ken sticks his foot in his mouth. But you knew where I was going. Okay. And so with that, I think Washington walks away with the win. I'm at a 6. I'm at a 6 on this. I'm actually feel a little bit better about this game than Detroit. I think, but I will say Philadelphia is a better team than Detroit. I feel that way. But I feel better about this game. With that, I'm giving them my confidence level is a 6 on this. So
okay, well, I'm certainly not going to try to change your mind on your number. If there was one flaw I saw in your thing,
okay,
your speech,
okay,
is that everything was about Jayden Daniels and our offense. And Jayden Daniels and our offense is the least of my concern in this game. My concern is going to be what can we do defensively. And that's kind of been a theme throughout the season. Jayden Daniels and his play obviously has been phenomenal this season. Terry, Diami Brown, Zach Ertz, OZ, Eckler, all of that stuff you named is great, but we still have to play defense. And it's the defense is what concerns me. Whether or not Marshawn Lattimore can not get the ticky-tack calls and the refs let him play, and he can get on to be sticky and cover AJ Brown. Can our linebackers on our front, control Saquon Barkley? Because one thing that you mentioned that Eckler did not play in the last game, but the person who also didn't play was John Allen. And I know a lot of people don't like John Allen, but Deron Payne and John Allen could be the difference in clogging up the middle.
Right.
And with John Allen back, then sometimes they go with the big front where you have Johnny Newton, Deron Payne, John Allen, and then they throw one of the edge rushers out there to try to stop the run. Right. So for me, this comes down to what can we do defensively. I'm not concerned about our offense, but your number and your confidence that you gave was all about our offense, and that's the least of my personal concern.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not trying to change the number.
No.
I'm just saying that's the only thing.
And I brought up that I thought that both Dan Quinn and Dan Campbell would come up with a plan to limit Barkley and Joe Witt there. I think you might have missed that joke, but I
guess
but I did comment on that, and like I said, and I
you
think
did.
the experience with Bobby Wagner will also come into play on this. This is going to be a black and blue game, I think, without a doubt.
It's going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this before we wrap this up, man. Many of our listeners know that we live here in Dallas, and one little nugget about where we watch the games here is that the sports bar is laid out and designed where we have our own space to watch the game. But also the Eagles have a fan club here, and we share this bar, and we're completely separated whenever we're playing at noon or 1 o'clock and the teams are playing at the same time. And even when we play each other, we're at the same bar, but we're completely separated from each other. And with the success that both teams have had this year, the crowds have grown. And with there's no other games being played on Sunday other than us and one other game, our bar is going to probably be pretty wild. And the number of fans that are going to be there, I think, is going to be large, and the intensity, and I think just the moment that this game represents, I think is going to make Sunday and the experience at the bar something that we've not seen ever, because we've not been in this situation before. We've been in some big games trying to beat each other, but we've never been in a game where it's for the chance and the opportunity to eliminate the other opponent and for the other one to go to the Super Bowl. So this is going to be a big game for us. And so that's the environment that we will be in on Sunday as we watch the game with the rest of our Commander fans. So
Yeah, I agree. And this is a good sized bar. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say between the Washington fans and the Philly fans, just at this bar, is going to be 400 to 500 fans between
right.
the two combined. It's going to be packed. It's going to be overflowing. The staff there is going to have their hands full, getting drinks, getting food. And like I said, hopefully when we leave, we're cheering. We'll be nice and hoarse, and the cry eagle cry will be heading out to the parking lot, and they'll already be out there. We'll be staying inside celebrating because we're going to be going to the Super Bowl while they say woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's
Yeah.
the hope here.
Yep. So we'll be back, win or lose, hopefully with a Victory Monday podcast. But for all the Commander fans out there, hey, let's go. Let's get all the good juju, all the good vibes heading up to Philadelphia, man. And hopefully we can pull off this win and the miraculous season that this is thus far continues. But we'll be back and we'll be in touch. So until next time, y'all, peace out.
Peace out, knuckleheads.